Hello guys, welcome to a new video on Tower of God New World, and in this video I'm going to give you my first impression on Spearbearer Anaak and Dowon. I'm going to start with Spearbearer Anaak, and I will immediately mention that she's a data tower unit, so you have to pull her within the time period that the data tower dungeon is up. That's going to last until like mid-February, so there is still time, and we'll recommend you guys to pull for her even before the other units that you're building in the normal summons. She's really important and she's not coming back anytime soon. Same thing as Kunagero. Next time he's back, make sure to pull for him. He's going to be a really good unit. Now, I was mistaken when I read the dev notes. I thought with Data Tower Dungeon they meant in general every instance of the Data Tower Dungeon, not that every unit had a specific Data Tower Dungeon. So that's a mistake on my part. I was pretty sure that we would have the rerun of Kunagero ready, but that's not the case. So that would mean for a Data Tower unit to come back, it could probably pass more than 3-4 months. We have no idea. So they're that much rarer. Now, what I'm a bit disappointed in is that they basically gave them the same kit. They obviously have the different use cases, they shine in different scenarios, but the fact that they have the same debuffs is a bit annoying from my point of view. Like having defense shred, swiftness decrease, having also energy decrease on the enemies, heal block, too many things overlapping. I don't know, that's a bit too much. I mean, she's great. We don't even need to properly test her. I just briefly used her and I could already see that she was just as valuable as Kunagero. Some scenarios a bit less, some scenarios a bit more. It always depends on the team composition, but overall they basically fulfill the same role, which is okay. I mean, it's always good to have more units, but I would just love for them to do some more variety in terms of kits. I don't know why they decided to release 2 Data Tower units with the same kit back to back. But that aside, I think again Anaak is a really valuable one. She provides a lot to the team, among the things that I already mentioned. I will say she already performs well at lower dupes, but definitely Revolution helps getting that additional value. Revolution 4 is already nice, it gives her additional 500 energy at the start of the battle, which together with Rainbow 5 just means that she's going to cast the special move immediately, and the special move is what blocks the enemy HP recovery, which is pretty important. For the Revolution 5 is probably even more important, I would say, because it just turns her HP recovery block into a non-removable debuff, which is great because most healers will have some sort of debuff removals here and there. So keep that in mind. Revolution 5 is going to come in handy. If there are times where you say, but she just casts the special move while the enemy is healing, it's probably because they removed the debuff. So you will definitely feel the difference with Rainbow 5. Nonetheless, amazing unit, great kit, but we're going to read that in a second. And in terms of team flexibility, you can really use her wherever you want. She doesn't have any sort of restriction in color, damage dealt by your teammates, doesn't matter. You can use her wherever you want, as long as there is sort of an healer that you can hit. Her targeting is always going to be the furthest away enemy, so if there is an healer in the backline, that's amazing. If it's somewhere else, you kind of have to position her in a way that that unit can still be hit, but regardless, it's going to be fairly good most of the time. So yeah, that being said, I'd say we can get started with the kit and we can have a look at the passive. The passive is already what I mentioned. She's going to target the furthest enemy, throwing her spear that pierces those in its path. Targets hit have their swiftness reduced by 20 for 10 seconds, max 4 stacks. That's 80 swiftness decrease. On level 1 it's only 40, but still really good. And the basic attacks cannot miss. That's really insane. So yeah, she will never miss against, I don't know, an enemy Zahard, an enemy Ren, so the bull that has the 160% of Ren stats. With a lot of evasion, you will still hit him. Really good overall. Then we have the first active skill, which is a barrier. She's going to create a barrier equal to 1200% of her attack for 10 seconds. Okay. And she's going to gain physical resistance and magic resistance increased by 40% and swiftness increased by 40 while the barrier is active. Now this is okay because she's ranged, the barrier is likely going to last long enough, so she's going to have that increased swiftness for quite a long time. The additional physical resistance and magic resistance just helps with annoying peers and resistance shreds, but overall an okay active skill, nothing insane, but it's okay. Now we have the second active skill, which is probably the most important one of the two, that is Raid. She's going to throw her spear at the furthest enemy, dealing 600% of her attack as damage 3 times, locking them for 3 seconds with the hit, and reducing defense by 60% for 10 seconds. This defense, I have no real way of confirming it, but it shouldn't stack, so it's going to be 60%, and that's it. Still, really good value. So that's a really massive ability, further improved by the exclusive equipment, but we're going to read that in a second. And then we have the special move. The special move is very simple. She's going to become immune to status effects and release a blast of hit on the furthest enemy, dealing 1200% of her attack as damage to all enemies in its path and blocking HP recovery for 10 seconds. That's it. Simple, plain. There is not much else to mention in this kit, I would say. As we can already see here, we have a bit of CC, defense shred, swiftness decrease, really good stuff, and here is just some additional survivability for her and HP recovery block. Lots and lots of value. Now I'd say we can move on to Revolution in a second and have a look at the Revolution 4 and 5, even though I already mentioned them. So Revolution 5 just gives her 500 energy at the start of the battle, and that's it. Revolution 5 is going to give her HP recovery block that cannot be removed by buff removals. This is really important. So overall, good Revolution, pretty solid, pretty simple even, so not much else to mention. Exclusive equipment is also okay, but only the level 3. Like level 1 just increases the attack coefficient of the special move, we don't really care, and the same thing is for level 4. Kinda trash, if you ask me. Level 2 is somewhat fine. It's an 80% max HP heal when she activates the barrier. Okay, just whatever, I would say. Level 3 is what's really important. She gains a 200 energy decrease for each hit of raid, which is 3, so up to 600 energy decrease. Really, really good. So yeah, that's all she does, basically, I would say. So now we can just briefly talk about the gear. I would say just slot 4. I would rather build her full defense, so full resistances. You don't really care about damage with her. If you're still in the early stages and you just started playing, you can probably build her more offensively and get some good uses out of her. Otherwise, I would just say stick to resistances, good. With the ignition weapon, I'd say Rafflesia should be one of the best options. Alocasia could also work, even though you're not going to be focused that much, but the 40% evasion on basic attacks can always come in handy, so you never know. And yeah, I would say also for ignition weapons, there is not much else to mention here. And I'd say that's pretty much all. There is nothing else to talk about on this unit. So I can move on to Dowon. And Dowon is also pretty insane. She has a great kit that we're going to read in a second, but her damage is just out of this world for some reason. I don't know if they made her wrong somehow, but she already deals respectable damage at 3 red. Like she could actually be used as a carry at 3 red, which is insane. But then her damage skyrockets even more at 4 orange, thanks to the passive revolution increase, really massive. And at Revolution 5 she gets even crazier, and Revolution 6 is just insanity, because the special move Pierce is really, really good. Mages have crazy good Revolution subnodes, so every Revolution upgrade matters. Even if the upgrades of the skills were mediocre, she would still be insane thanks to these subnodes. So not much we can say here, guys. She seems to be busted. So If you want and you have the means, I'd say go for her, given you can then either push enough to get enough tickets back and then pull for Gustang, or if you want to be on the safe side, just wait it out. You're going to lose out on the auto tap tap, sorry, not the auto tap tap, the tap tap plus a little bit by not having a Rainbow 5 already. But that's fine, I guess, as a loss, to just wait to see Gustang's kit, and then you can decide which one of the two you want to pick. If you obviously have enough resources to go for Gustang in the first place, I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of up to you. I would say watch my previous videos on the pool guide for this anniversary. I would say most of those things still stand. Just keep in mind for the non-stop SSR Plus portion of it, we have now one reset that we can use, so that's pretty good. Now over to the kit, we can have a read at the passive. The first part is that you're going to get an attack increase by 15% each time a blue element ally uses a skill, max 30 stacks, and she starts as like untargetable for 20 seconds. This starts at 8 seconds level 1, gets to 20 at level 5. If there are no other targetable allies remaining in the battlefield, this effect will be removed. When she awakens as a hero, she gains immunity to all status effects except for seals until the end of the battle. And the Revolution 4, which I mentioned briefly before, is really good because it gives her 10 initial stacks immediately at the start of the battle, and also makes it so they cannot be removed with buff removal skills. So a 3 red Dowon is easily susceptible to Anniversary Iwa or a Garam, but a orange 4-1 is not. So really, really good. Then we have the first active skill. This is going to increase our own physical pierce by 40% and create a barrier equivalent to 800% of our attack on herself and the ally with the highest defense. And while the barrier is active, it reduces the enemy's attack by 80% for 8 seconds when they hit those barriers. That's okay. That's a nice boost in survivability in some way. It's nice. It's not something you would say it's a insane buff, but it's really good. And the physical pierce especially is really, really strong. You could, but more detail on that when we go over the ignition weapons. You can definitely go resistances on her if your deficit is not too high. If your deficit is too high, you probably have to go full damage, and then you have to rely on your team to protect from AoE attacks that the enemies might have. Because even though you're untargetable, you can still be hit by Data Urek, Gustang's passive, Garam, whatever its AoE can hit you. So keep that in mind. Same thing as Albelda. You still run resistances on Albelda because otherwise she can be hit by whatever and still die. Then we have the second active skill, super straightforward. She's going to create a whirlwind centered on herself to deal 800% of attack as damage to enemies in range. And then if the enemy has a forget-me-not stack or effect on them, the attack coefficient is going to be increased by 400%. Coefficient is pretty low, but it gets higher with some conditions. So it's okay, pretty simple, nothing fancy. Special move, really good. Flower Garden, she's going to drop Shinsu Spheres across the battlefield, dealing 800% of her attack as damage to enemies within range, and then explode to deal another instance of 800% attack as damage and knock them down the enemies. Whenever you hit an enemy with this skill, they're going to be marked with Forget Me Not for 10 seconds, and whenever a marked enemy dies, including summon beings, all blue element allies recover HP. Okay, not too important, I'd say, but still a nice heal. It's a bit too situational, but still nice. Definitely procs a lot against enemies that can summon units multiple times, like a Gustang, but really good nonetheless. And she's also going to provide an attack buff by 25% with a max of 4 stacks. Revolution 5 is going to reduce the remaining cooldown of Dowon's active skill by 10 seconds when Flower Garden activates. I still couldn't tell if it was by casting the skill or activating this effect, but I would say I had a look at some fights and it seemed like she cast the special move like 3 times and she still didn't cast the active skill, so I'm guessing this is tied to enemies dying. So whenever an enemy dies, you get the 10-second decrease on the active skill. That's how it seems to work. If you have proof of it working otherwise, let me know, because I just had a look at videos and that's what I could kind of find out. But it's really, again, difficult. We have no real ways to test it. So yeah, that's the best I can tell you. From my observation, it seems like it triggers only when this effect triggers. So the one that would heal and give an attack buff also decreases Dowon's active skill cooldown. That's what it seems to be. Which is still great, don't get me wrong, but definitely worse than just whenever you cast a special move. So yeah, I think that's kind of obvious. So yeah, that's more or less it for the skills. If we want to quickly mention Revolution, not in terms of what they do because we already looked at that, but in terms of what to upgrade, I would definitely say Effect It is not as important because it's not like she really has many like crowd controls. She has a knockdown, whatever, but nothing that you really care about applying. So for me, it's fine to skip it. Swiftness, really good on all mages. Just take those 20 points. They're pretty cheap. Crit hit rate, just enough to get to 100%. You don't need more, so just keep that in mind. HP could be skipped. Attack, really important. Crit damage, really important. Special move Pierce, super important. Max cooldown reduction will definitely be good on her. I just don't want to use my resources yet. I have no clue what they're going to do with Gustang, so I'm still saving it up. But if I see I have enough after maxing out Gustang, then I will definitely also unlock this one. Really, really strong. So yeah, that's more or less it for the Revolution part. Let's have a look at the exclusive equipment. She also gains physical resistance, which is why I mentioned before that looking at how she works and the fact that she gets Pierce and Defense Ignore, that we're going to read in a second here in the exclusive equipment, I'd say her damage is still good enough unless you're really at a high deficit, like 350 plus. If you're below 350, I'd go with resistances, as kind of suggested by this effect here in the exclusive equipment. I'd say she has enough damage in her kit to easily wipe out the enemy team while staying alive and protected from AoE attacks. So that's kind of my idea. Level 1 is okay. Nothing really that you would super rely on. Is a heal of 20% of the target max HP when the barrier from the active skill Wasted Piece dissipates. Fine, but it's not really a great effect. I don't really like to see heal effect that much, but okay. Level 2 is also really good, but kind of too situational, I'd say. She recovers 500 energy every time an ally dies, excluding summon beings, unfortunately, otherwise it would be a lot better. And the Whirlwind attack coefficient also increases by 200% every time that happens. So you could get up to 800% attack increase in the Whirlwind coefficient, and you can get up to 4 times 500 energy, which is 2 special moves. So overall, if you can have her as the last unit to survive, that's great, and that will do something. But if you have a team that kind of sustains itself and stays alive, this will never procs unless things go wrong. So it's okay. It's for when things start to go bad, but it's not like the most insane exclusive equipment upgrade. Level 3 is a bit better, I would say. Is still tied to the barrier from the active skill. When it dissipates, the target's energy is increased by 150, which includes both Dowon and the unit that you apply the barrier to. So good overall. Level 4 is what's really important here. She's going to ignore 30% of the target enemy's defense when they have a Forget Me Not. So amazing. After the first special move, her damage is going to increase like crazy. So solid. Not much we can say here. In terms of ignition weapons, at the moment you kind of want to go with an L set because it's her best set at the moment. She doesn't really have anything else that comes close. And we should be getting a set in February that will help units that rely on the special move, which Dowon is like part of. So yeah, definitely she will probably change the ignition weapon that's best for her. So keep that in mind. I wouldn't go out of my way to farm one, but definitely could be a good set still. L, I'm using the hard set because I already had one for him. If you were using the hard in the past, probably chances are you already have a good set for her. And the one I'm running is a crit damage and physical pierce one. This is only because I'm mostly running her with either Anniversary Iwa or Albelda or Anaak, somebody that can keep her alive. So that's fine. Otherwise, as I mentioned, definitely go magic resistance and go with here physical resistance. If you have a lot of magic resistance in your true essence and you can have enough magic resistance without this slot 4, then go crit damage here and stick to physical resistance here, just because mages already have guaranteed crits with the revolution, so it's a good thing to do, I would say, to increase your crit damage even further if you don't really need the additional magic resistance, and you can get 100% without slot 4. So yeah, that's something to consider. And in terms of gear that I kind of skipped is more or less the same. Slot 4 only if you go the physical like the resistance build. If you go the pure damage build, you just need slot 2. And yeah, that's more or less it, I would say, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. I will obviously try both units more in the following days, and then I will do the character reviews probably further down the line. I think way past when Goosting is going to be released, so that I will have some more time to test them out. These banners will last for 4 weeks. We have no rush, I'd say. So just guys, take your time. Yeah, that's more or less all. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.